morning students. So in the last video we have completed the chapter 10, that is classes and objects. So you know very well in OOPS concept, that is object oriented programming language, we know the concept of classes and how the members of the classes are accessed using the objects which you are creating in the class, for the class. Okay. So classes and objects we have seen, and we have seen about inheritance, and we have seen about the constructors, we have seen about destructors. So how they are performed. So constructors and destructors are called automatically, is it no? So we are not calling the both methods as explicitly. So how this classes and objects are created and constructors and destructors are created and maintained in Python program. So that we have seen in the last chapter, that is chapter 10. Okay. So up to this we have learnt about the Python programming language. So from chapter 11 we are going to learn the database concept, that is SQL. Okay. So in this chapter, before getting into the SQL, chapter 12, in chapter 11 they have given a introduction part for the database concept. Okay. So chapter 11 is database concept. So we are going to see chapter 11 today, that is database. So what do you mean by data? So you know very well, data means it's a raw value. Okay. That is 11, it's a data. Anu, it's a data. Okay. 12th standard, it's a data. Okay. So it doesn't have any meaning or one, it's a raw one. Okay. So that is called as a data. When data gets combined to form an information. Okay. So 11 or 12 is a data. Anu, it is a data. Okay. So 98, it's a data. So these three are separate data. So it's a numerical data, it's a string data, it's also a numeric data. So these three separately represent a raw data. So when these three data combine to give an information, Anu of 12th standard got 98 in computer. Okay, so this is an information. So Anu of 12th standard got 98 marks in computer. Okay, so so now you can feel the difference between the raw data and the information. So this you have already know very well. So what's a data and what's a information? So you know data is a raw value and information means when they combine they will give an information. So what do you mean by database? Right. So you know these three are data. So these three are data. So when we are framing a table, right. So for suppose if I am framing a table for 12th standard, serial number, and then comes the name, and then comes the class. So let me lift the serial number, name, class, and then mark. Okay. So name is Anu, class is 12, mark is 98. So the same data can be represented in table. Okay. The same data 12, Anu and 98, it can be represented in a table like this. So how I can form a table? So this one name, and this one class, and this one mark. Okay. So name, class and mark. So here name is Anu, class is 12 and mark is 98. Clear? So this is the same raw data. If we write in sentence, it gives the information like this. The same thing is written in a table. I have framed a table and I have given the raw data. So this is also gives the same meaning as this statement. That is Anu of class 12 had secured 98 mark. Right? So this is the transformation of raw data in tabular format. Okay. So database means it's a collection of table. Right. So what do you mean by database? So database. So database is a collection of tables, and tables is a collection of records, and record is a collection of data. So this is the main concept, that is Database, it's a collection of table. So database means there are many datas. So the data may be of any form, but when they form a meaningful information only, they get valued. So okay, so database will be containing like this table is for class 12. Similarly, we can have another table for class 11. I can have another table for, this is for computer subject means I can have another table for Tamil, another table for English, Maths, etc. So I can have many tables. So database is a collection of tables. So table means in a table, it is a collection of records. So here I am having Anu. Similarly, I can have another person, Banu. Her class is also 12 and mark is 85. And similarly, I can have another Chandru. Same class and he got 78. So this is the record of Anu. So Anu's record means it denotes that Anu has secured 98 marks. This is the record of Banu and this is the record of Chandru. Okay. So table is a collection of records. So and records is a collection of data. So this one is the record. So this is a particular record. In this record I am having 3 raw data. Anu is a data, 12 is a data, 98 is a data. Clear? So database is a collection of tables. Tables is a collection of records and record is a collection of data. Okay. So you know what is a raw data? When they form a meaningful sentence, they will be an information. So when that raw data is represented in a table, they also give us an information. So database is the collection of tables, table is the collection of records and records is the collection of data. So this is the general concept of database. Okay, I think you know very well what is a database. So there are many data in our class. For a particular class, I can have the first midterm table separately, second midterm table separately, quarterly exam term separately. Your Tamil miss can have your Tamil subject of 10th standard, 11th standard, 12th standard. So there are many tables along one database. In that, how you can retrieve your particular data. For that only SQL helps. So before getting into it, this is the introduction part for you. Okay, so you know what's a database. Next we are moving to the DBMS. What is DBMS? Okay, that is database management system. Right? So now you know what is a database. Next we will see DBMS. DBMS means database management system. So SMDB, right? Database management system. So this is the full form of the DBMS, database management system. So you know what is a database. So for managing that database, we are having a software called DBMS. Okay, this software help us to create database, create table, select some records, or we can have update some records, we can delete some records, so we can modify whatever you can do with the record, it helps us to do. Okay, so DBMS is a software which supports of handling the records of a database. So it acts as an interface for the user to act with the database. So that one is the DBMS, that is database management system. So now let us see the characteristics of DBMS. So what is the characteristics of DBMS? So there are 7 characteristics. So first one, data stored into tables. So first one is the data stored into tables, which means, so whatever data we are getting into the database, it is stored inside the table. It is not stored anywhere separately. It gets directly stored into a table. So if a raw record Anu is there, means it will be stored inside the table under the column name. Okay, so each and every data is stored into a table and it is not stored anywhere. Okay, so the first characteristics of database is data is stored into tables. So you know very well in table it will be very easy for the user to identify which format you want. Okay, And the same thing, other writing, instead of writing in sentence, it will be very clear for the user if you write it in a table, right? So the data is stored in a table only in database. So the first one is the first characteristics, and the second characteristics, reduced redundancy. So what do you mean by redundancy? This repetition. Okay, so reduced redundancy means, so nowadays we are having many pen drives and hard disk and all we are able to buy, but in the earlier stage hard disk was very costly. So at that time we cannot have the redundancy, the repetition of particular data. So if we are having one data, the same data has to be repeated another time. The same data has to be repeated third time. So that is, same data is saved in your computer more than 2 or 3 times. That is repetition. Okay. So it reduced that. So that is DBMS, that is this database management system, helps us to avoid repetition of data. That is the second characteristics, reduced redundancy, right? Third one, data consistency. So what do you mean by consistency? What do you mean by consistency? So if you finish your UG degree, they will ask whether your marks are consistency. Okay, whether you are having consistency in your marks. That is, in 12 sometimes you might have, in 10 sometimes you may have got 75% or 80%. So suppose in 10th standard if you got 80% and 12th standard if you got 60%. Then when you go to BSc you got 70%. Then there is the graph, no? So here 80 and here 70 and then here 60, or sometimes you may have here 60 and here 90. So that is, the graph gets down and then it gets an up. Okay, if it is in the same line 82, 85, 89, then this is called consistency, right? That is, you are maintaining your level, then the same thing. So when you are learning 10th or when you are learning 12th or when you are learning UG, that is your college, there may be many obstacles or there may be many different situations you have come across, but you have consistently maintained your mark. So that one is the meaning of consistency, right? So that is, whatever be the situation, it maintains the same level. So here also data consistency means, so that is, the data has been whatever be the query, that is whatever be the situation, whether you are updating the record or whether you are deleting the record or you are moving from one table to another table, whatever happens, the data, the value, the data had the same consistency. Okay. That is, the DBMS supports data consistency. The data is maintained very well. That one is the main point. That is data consistency. Clear? Fourth one, support multiple user. So what do you mean by multiple user? So you know very well. So now multiple user means more than one of the user is getting operated on a particular database. So already I have said database is a collection of tables. So one user can get active into the one table. The second user can use the second table, or the second table can be used by user 1 and user 2. So that is also possible in DBMS. Okay, so it supports multiple user. So more than one user can get access with the particular database. Clear? And the fifth characteristics is query language. Okay, so query language. So what do you mean by query? Query means a question. Okay, do you have any queries? Means, do you have any doubts? Do you want me to ask me any questions? That is, do you have any queries means question. Okay, so what you want to get from it, that is the query. Okay, so as I said earlier, there is a SQL, that is we are going to learn in the chapter 12, structure query language. Okay, that one is a software which supports in accessing the records of a database. Okay, so database has a collection of table is a collection of record, no? So you are accessing that record, SQL query language, a structure query language which is under this DBMS. This DBMS supports query language SQL, so which helps us to retrieve records, update records, create everything. Clear? And that is also a characteristics of DBMS. And next, sixth one, security. So it gives us the well protected security for each and every data inside a database, and then we can also have allow permissions for the database to whether it can allow the particular table to be shared to the another user. We can also we can also give permission for the other user to access the particular table, or we can also deny the permission. Okay, so that is also it provides. DBMS provides us the security for each and every data and database. And the seventh one, DBMS supports transaction. Okay, so it is also helps the user to transact the particular database or particular table from one user to other user, or from one database it can to other software also we can transfer the database, right? So DBMS supports that one also. So characteristics of DBMS. So there are 7 characteristics. First one, data stored into tables. Second one, reduced redundancy. So data consistency and support multiple user. Fifth one, query language. Sixth one is the security, and seventh one is the DBMS supports transactions. Okay. So next we will see the components of DBMS. So now we have seen characteristics of DBMS. Next we are going to see the components of DBMS. So what are the components? So as you know very well, so we need a hardware and we need a software, so performing this DBMS concept. So what are the components? So components of DBMS. So first one, hardware. Second one, software. Third one, data. Fourth one, methods or procedures. Fifth one, database language. Clear? So these 5 are the components of DBMS. Okay. So components of DBMS: hardware, software, data, methods, procedures and database language. So you know very well what is a hardware. So it must contain all the components of a system, all the hard disk, and it must also be the hardware must be able to support all the softwares and other components connected to it. Okay, that is the hardware. And next one, software. So there are many softwares. So software for the particular software must be helpful for manipulating the database in DBMS, right? So that we need the particular software for it. And next one, data. So you know very well database, that is the main key of the database is the data. So with data only you are going to manipulate the data. For that only we are using the database management system, right? And fourth one, methods and procedures. So there are some methods and there is the statements or procedures for retrieving, updating, deleting, or we can move, or we can generally fully delete like that. That is for manipulating the database. And the fifth one is the database language. So as I said earlier, SQL you are going in your syllabus. Other than that, there are DBase and Fox Pro also. So these are some database language which helps to access the database. So how it performs is, so the core one is the hardware. So if you are having the system only, we can perform this. So the main one is the hardware, and then comes the software. So if the user is here, so it is accessed using procedures or methods. And then here comes the data. and the database language. So database language is used to access the data. Okay. So the general one is the hardware and then comes the software. So hardware in which we are install the software. So user can use procedures or methods. So database, with the help of database language, data are accessed into the procedures or methods and they are given into the software. So it will perform the methods and procedures what we have given, the statement we have given, and it will manipulate it, right. So this is the picture that has been how the components of DBMS happens. Okay. So this is the 5 components of DBMS. What are all they? Hardware, software, data, and then comes the procedures or methods, and the last one is the database language. Clear, students? Okay. So next we are going to see how database, the table. In database, how the table headings and the table data are represented. Okay. So you know very well, if you are having a table like this, serial number, name, mark 1, mark 2. Suppose I am having a table like this and I am having my data. Okay. Suppose I am having a data. So it will be 1, 2, 3. Let me give the values A, B, C. And here I am having 60, 70 and 80. And let me here the, in mark 2, let me have 90, 80 and 85. Right. This is a table. Okay. So in table we used to say this one as a column. The vertical things, the vertical representation is called as a column. And the horizontal thing we used to say as a row. In table we used to say what is a column and what is a row. So the vertical part is the column and the horizontal part is the row. So this we all know. In common we used to say like that. But in DBase how it is represented, that is how it is performed. Okay. So we used to say this one, serial number, name, no, that is the column we used to say as attribute. Okay. Column is as attribute and row is this tuple. Okay, and table is as relation. So how we are representing? Column is represented as attribute, that is serial number is an attribute, name is an attribute, M1 is an attribute and M2 is an attribute. So in this table we are having 4 attributes. So column, the vertical one, column we used to say no, that one in database we used to say it as attribute. Okay, we have the name as attribute. And next row. So this one is a row, this one is the row and this one is the row, that is a record. A's record, B's record, C's record. It means what is a record? A has a serial number A. His record means what he has maintained. He has secured mark 60 marks in M1, he has secured 90 marks in M2. That is the record. So record we used to say is as tuple. So tuple. In 9th chapter you have come across what is a list, what is a tuple, what is a set and what is a dictionary we have learned. I think you remember it. So that word tuple. Okay, so record is called as a tuple and the next one table. So we name it as table now. Here it is called as a relation. Okay, so in database we used to represent the column as attribute, row as tuple and table as a relation. Right. So I think up to this you are clear. That is, we have seen what is data, what is information, what is a database, what is a DBMS, and we have seen characteristics of DBMS and we have seen the components of DBMS and we have also seen the how the tables is represented in database. Right. Okay. So next we are going to see the data model. Okay. So we are going to manipulate on data only. So how if the data has some structures, how the data can be modeled. So there are 5 data models. So let us see the 5 data models in the next. Right. So now we are going to see the types of data model. Okay, so there are 5 types of data model. So what are all they? So first one is the hierarchical, second one relational, third one network database, fourth one entity relationship, that is ER, and fifth one object model. Okay, so we are seeing the 5 data models. So first one is the hierarchical, and second one relational, third one is the network database, and fourth one is the entity relationship, and fifth one is the object model. Okay, so it was developed by IBM. Hierarchical database, no, it was developed by IBM. So in this they are having a parent-child relationship. So parent-child relationship means, so you know very well, a parent can have more than 1 or 2 children, isn't it? No, but the children can have only one parent. So that's the same thing. So that's why they are representing as parent-child relationship here. Okay, so parent can have more than 1 children and the child can have only one parent. That is the consider the example here, school. So in this we can have senior, secondary and primary. Okay, so in primary block there may be 3rd standard, 4th standard and 5th standard. So 3rd, 4th and 5th, they belong to the primary group. Okay, this primary is having 3 child, that is 3rd, 4th and 5th, but they are having, the 3rd is having only one parent, that is primary class, and 4th is having only one parent, primary, and 5th is having only primary. That is the child is connected to only one. So see this line, it is connected to 1. So but from the parent they are moving to 3. So that one is the parent-child relationship. Okay, so from school we are having senior, secondary and primary. So from senior, secondary we are having class 11 and class 12. That is the child will be connected to only one. So the child will be connected to only one parent. So இந்த ஒரு முத மட்டும் தனியா எடுத்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா அது ஏதாவது ஒருவரோட மட்டும் தான் கனெக்ட் ஆயிருக்கும் மேலே பார்க்கும்போது. Okay, but when you are coming down it will be connected more than one. That is the parent-child relationship. This parent, these two are children. But at the next stage, this acts as a parent and they are having 2 children. And this acts as a parent and they are having 3. Okay. So first this acts as a parent and the second stage, this acts as a parent. Okay. That is the parent-child relationship. So this one is the hierarchical model. I think you know what is the meaning of the word hierarchical. Okay. So order by order. That one is the hierarchy. Okay. So that was developed by IBM. What relationship is performed here? Parent-child relationship. And next one is the relational model. So this is the main thing. Nowadays we are performing with the DBMS concept. That is, we are performing with the data. So nowadays we are having many data and we are going on manipulating with data. So the main topic nowadays in this computer basis relational data, that has the peak point nowadays. So relational model, this is the main thing, that is the recent thing and is a popular one, we are using it. So what does it do? It was developed by EF Cod in the year 1970. EF Cod in the year 1970, and here tables are manipulated as relation. So as I said earlier, how the tables, we are table structure, you know, column is an attribute, row is a tuple, and we know that table is represented as relation. So suppose I am having here one table and here one table. Let for a employee, let this be the personal detail and this be the employer, that is the company detail. Then if I want to gather some information from 2 table, I can get this. Okay, this is called the relational model, right? So what is the relationship between this table, from that we can get another table. That one is the relation. What is the relationship between in this table employer we are having personal, and another table we are having the employee detail, that is employee name, his designation, whether he is working as a manager or not, what is his salary, what is his date of joining, like that belongs to the company details. But in the personal details, what is his name, what is his age and what is his address, that belongs to the personal. So these 2 informations are stored in 2 table, and if I want employee name, his age, then I have to get from the personal table, and I want to get his designation means I have to get from the second table. So these two tables get connected, I am getting the data, that is the relation. Okay, that was performed in the relational model. This is the, nowadays we are using this model only. So it was developed by E.F. Codd in 1970. And next comes the network database. So network, that is the extended form of hierarchical. So network database is the extended form of hierarchical database. In hierarchical database, we will be having only one parent and child. That is, parent can have more than one child, but the child will be having, that is, will be connected to only one parent. But in network database, the child can also have more than one parent. So that is the enhanced, that is the extended form of hierarchical database. Child have many parent nodes. Okay, so school, library, class. See, school is the parent, it can have more than one children, so therefore library and class. So but here see, student can go to the library and he can also go to the class, but student has two parents, that is library and class. So this way of connecting the database is called as the network database. Okay, and the fourth one is the entity relationship. This is also the main thing, that is ER relationship. We used to say as ER diagram, entity relationship diagram, or ER relationship, that is entity relationship. What do you mean by entity? So what do you mean by entity means the main part, what is happening, that was called as the entity, that is a table. For what purpose we are created, or for employee means employee personal means that one is the entity. Okay, so employee, he gets access with the sub employers. Okay, so who is working under them, so he supervises it, he manages it. Okay, that manages, supervises what the work he does, it is the entity. Okay, so that is here ER diagram, it's a main concept, but it is not given in your syllabus, but just 2 or 3 symbols to denote the entity is given. Okay, so entity ER diagram means there are many symbols for denoting each and every part of a ER diagram, but it is not in your syllabus, so they have given only 2-3 symbols, and for what purpose we are using. So for denoting an entity, it is rectangle, and for ellipse it is an attribute. Okay, so that is, if you denote inside a ellipse, then it is called as an attribute. What is an attribute? Column, that is an attribute. And next, diamond, if you denote inside a diamond, it is a relationship. Relationship means the table. Okay, so see here, student, so I have represented within the rectangle, then it is an entity. So then I am having student ID, and then I am having student name. I have represented student ID and student name within the ellipse. It means it is an attribute. Clear? And the last one is the object model. So what do you mean by object? So you know very well, in the last chapter only we have learnt about classes and objects. So that is, this object model, it handles, it stores data in as objects, methods, classes and inheritance. So the data is stored in objects, methods, classes and inheritance. So it is for, it has a very huge amount of, it gets a huge time of application. So it can be applied in many of the application. In scientific application we can do, in medical application we can do, what are all the database we are having, it can be applied with any data, because it is handled with objects, inheritance, classes and methods, right? This one is the enhanced and the most powerful model, that is the object model. So how it is described is, you know what is a class, what is an object, and what is inheritance also. So you have learned in the last 11th standard. You have learned types of inheritance also, isn't no? Hybrid inheritance, like that. So shape, circle, rectangle, square. So shape is an object. Within that I can have circle, rectangle and square. These three are the entities. Okay, so are the relations for the, so with the circle can have radius as its entity, rectangle can have length and breadth, and square can have side. Okay, so these the object model. So with for every class we can members of the class can be accessed using the object. So we have seen the types of data model. There are 5 types of data model: hierarchical model, relational model, network database model, entity relationship model and object model. Okay, I think you are clear with this. Okay students, so in this video we have learnt about, we have started the chapter 11, database concept. So you know what is a data, what is an information, and you know what is for what DBMS is a software. The full form of DBMS is database management system. So, and we have seen the characteristics of DBMS. Okay, so there are 7 points in characteristics of DBMS. So that is, it is stored into tables, and its data redundancy can be performed, and then consistency, and then we can have multiple user, security, query language, and then the DBMS supports transition. So we have 7 points in the characteristics of DBMS, and we have also seen the components of DBMS. What are all the components of DBMS? Hardware, software, data, procedures and methods, and the database language. And then we have seen how the table is represented in database structure. So column is represented as attribute, row is represented as a tuple, and we name the table as a relation. Clear? And then we have seen the 5 data model. Clear? So I think you are clear with the video what you have learned today. Thank you students.